Morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Annie.
How are you?
I am awesome. How can we be anything else?
I don't know. It's a beautiful day.
Sitting here on this beautiful
Yep.
lawn here in front of St. Paul's, and
Yep.
we could be sitting at any one of our churches.
We could be.
And it would be a beautiful location.
Yeah.
But so early, this is end of summer.
End of summer. I know.
The kids go back to school in a few days.
Oh, I know.
I can hear parents all over Grey Bruce going,
Yay! But the kids are also going to celebrate too because they've been so sequestered.
Yes.
And you see them out on the beach and you've been seeing them in the playgrounds and having a blast. You know, my favorite place to go if I need some, just reminder that life is good is go by the splash pads.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And just the running. Okay, there's been adults running through the splash pads too, just so you know. But just and living life, right?
Well,
living life.
and just looking at our beaches. Now we do go to a very, very quiet one, but you drive by and all of our beaches are full. People are good; they're keeping their little clusters separate. But this is the best of summer, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow.
And now moving into a September that has some hope. I know it's not everything that we'd hoped for September.
No.
But it's. The kids are going back to school.
Yep.
Lots of people are vaccinated.
And I think, we're. Is it because we're getting used to it? It's just like,
Maybe.
okay, wear a mask. Like I went and got my coffee this morning, and down at the local place, and I signed in and I had my mask on and counted how many people were in line.
Yeah.
It's kind of normal now to do that.
It is.
right?
It is.
Like,
it is. And you have to excuse our chattiness here because we pre-recorded a lot of August because I was off for 3 weeks and Annie had a little bit of time off. So we're catching up now.
we haven't
with
seen
you,
each other.
with you. But this is Friday Crumbs with the
Pop-Tarts!
And we are looking at a piece of scripture actually that was appointed for today.
Yep.
So over the summer we did our Psalms.
We did the parables. No,
That's right, parables. We've done Psalms
quickly
before.
she forgets.
I know.
Really?
I know. And so this is the epistle reading for Friday, September the 5th.
3rd.
Friday,
1, 2,
September
3.
the 3rd. That's right, because the 5th is actually, I think, Sundays. So I know my Sunday dates.
No, there are other days in the week.
Oh, I know. But ministers only
work one day a week.
The rest
You
of the
guys
time,
don't
it's a
believe
giggle
that.
fest.
You don't believe that either, do you?
Anyway, so getting
2
serious.
Corinthians.
Yes.
Chapter 4, beginning at verse 5.
And ending at verse 12.
Yep.
Just in case you're looking up in your own
Which
Bible.
you should, I'm just saying.
She's being bossy
I
today.
am.
No, assertive.
Oh, assertive. Yeah,
Yes.
not bossy. Assertive, yes. Okay. Chapter 4, verse 5. For we do not proclaim ourselves, we proclaim Jesus Christ as Lord, and ourselves as your slaves for Jesus' sake. For it is the God who said, let light shine out of darkness, who has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. But we have this treasure in clay jars, so that it may be made clear that this extraordinary power belongs to God and does not come from us.
We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not driven to despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. Always carrying in the body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be made visible in our bodies. For while we live, we are always being given up to death for Jesus' sake, so that the life of Jesus may be made visible in our mortal flesh. So death is at work in us, but life in you. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Yeah. Coming back to scripture to look at,
Yeah.
we've got a lovely, meaty kind of
There's so much we
reading
can
here.
play with today.
There's a couple of things here that I just was really fascinated with. The first one, Annie, is what you were reading, right? Verse 7.
Okay.
But we have this treasure in clay pot, in clay jars,
Yeah.
so that it may be made clear that this extraordinary power belongs to God and does not come from us.
Yep.
So I know you know exactly what I'm going to say.
I know.
And most of you do too.
Go.
I love this because, first of all, it makes me wonder clay pots. So in our Genesis story,
Yep.
right, one of the creation stories is that we are made from clay, right?
Yeah.
So if we are made in the image of God and we are made from clay, then the clay jars in us is that God residing in us, right?
Right.
Leading to this incredible, for me, theology of life, philosophy of life is that while I must admit to faults, right?
We
Even as
all
difficult
do.
as that is, and we do have them little and big, but to always give glory,
Yep.
not to our own incredible gift or our own incredible wonderfulness, but to the glory of God.
Yeah.
Because every good thing that has been poured into us that we share with others is a gift from
Right.
God. And so that verse really makes me think about, absolutely, let's glorify God by giving God the due that God is, deserves.
Yeah. I mean, we hear so much about clay,
Yeah.
and immediately when I see clay, I think of the Lutheran Anglican
I
youth
know.
thing. That's the first thing I think of. So good analogy on that, like how they picked that name. But I think of clay as being in the ground, and clay needs a bunch of things to happen, right? It needs water, it needs the silt, and then it needs to be formed. Because clay unto itself is just kind of mud that sticks together. It's just kind of a blob. And that's all good and fine. But it needs to be formed. It needs a set of hands. It needs something to make it what it is. And I think that we can never be alone. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's a stretch. I get that. I do that. But we can't be formed from clay, or clay jars can't be made without hands, right? Like we need something to make that into something. So, and I'm all into community right now, just because we'll always have been. It's important that we can't be alone in either God's work, because we can't do it alone. We just can't. We have to rely on community to be one. But also, we just can't have the power of God ourselves. We have to share it.
That's right.
Now, I was having a discussion with another Anglican minister yesterday about how our church has changed so much. Church, not the building, but church as collective, because of these little devices that we all have with us. And that electronics are now the hands that can mold some of our message and take it out to the world.
Yes.
So we need to share the message. And sometimes it was always, oh, well, you kept the doors closed in the church because people would hear us singing. You know what? I can't wait to hear people singing.
Let's
right?
hope so. Let's hope so. That's what I love about these outdoor services.
I know.
Is people walking by can hear us praying. They can hear us responding. They can hear the scripture. We did one, at the first one we did at St. John's, and it was lovely because a woman was walking down the street and she was pushing a pushchair, and there's a wee child in there, and then she stopped for about 10 minutes and she listened to the music, right? And she listened to the words of our liturgy. And I just thought, oh, is this not what we are called to do? To take our faith, to take our experiences and share it with the world. To let that light shine
in that darkness.
That's right.
And I think that's something that we forget, that darkness can be also in the bright light.
Yes.
We have people right now, a lot of people struggling mentally, spiritually, because they're in darkness.
Yes.
So 2 Corinthians, let light shine out of darkness.
Yes.
Who has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. So, at the corner of Mill and Stafford in Port Elgin last week, you were sharing light to someone who might have been in darkness.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? That's what we need to do.
But that's what we do all the time, I think, when we share our experiences of God. When we can share with somebody how we found comfort. How in the afflictions we have not been crushed, as we hear in our scripture reading today, right? Where we are not forsaken, where there is something that leads us, that continues to help us get up each day and to face what's going on, to what's happening in the world around us.
Is that defined as hope, though? Is that hope, or is it hope expanded.
Well, hope is never for just the one. I mean, it comes back to what you say, right? Clay is formed into something.
Yeah.
So there are hands, like I always think about the hands of God that holds the world, right? And so God forms us, God holds us, God soothes us, God leads us. God sometimes redirects us.
Yeah.
But it's never
Or hits
done
us upside the head.
in isolation.
Right.
Never in
Yeah.
isolation.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
There's
it's in
always this sense of community, whether it's a community of 2, a community of 200. We are always with God. God is always with us. And we are always part of the community in which we are called to live and serve and love.
And that's, you know, like I said, community. I was driving, as I look across the way at the lineup around the bake shop.
Yes.
I'm thinking there's a community. They may not be overly happy right now, but right now you didn't see it, but there's a little chipmunk that's joined us. So we're now in community when 2 or 3 are gathered. Did you ever say anything about 2 feet versus 4 feet? No. But I think community and finding light where we can find light.
Yes.
So we're sitting in the shade today, only because it's
hot,
warm. But then now geese are flying over and they're in community, as you may hear them. Thank you, right on cue. Community, being together, and formation. I think that's kind of the themes of some of this reading. We are reforming now as a church, I think.
Yes.
We're reforming.
Yes.
I don't know that we're post-COVID. I wish we were, but we're not. I'm hoping in the waning edges of COVID, but I think we're reforming. We're
Absolutely.
reforming as people, we're reforming as scriptural people, and we're reforming as community.
That's right. And as the people of the early church came together, they needed to make decisions about how they would move forward.
Yeah.
Right? And so did we do what we always used to do? Well, there were huge changes from whether it was people of the Jewish faith who were following Jesus, whether it was Gentiles who were now followers of Jesus. There were opportunities everywhere to decide how to move forward, knowing that the light of Christ, the light and the life of God dwells within us and guides us, just like it does today. So are we going to go back to what we always did just because we always did it in our own recollection?
No.
Or are we going to be finding ways to come together in new hybrid ways, celebrating and worshiping and singing, and finding new rhythms in liturgy that of course are approved by the bishop.
You had to slip that in. I knew it was coming. I'm
God
going,
willing,
yeah,
bishop
here we
agree.
go. Okay. You know what? We live by rules, and this is one of the rules that, you know, that Paul gave us in his letter to the Corinthians, that, you know, let light shine out of darkness, but also that, you know, we have a treasure in clay jars, and we're the clay jar. We're a treasure.
Right. And this scripture, reading of scripture, daily prayer, daily pondering on scripture, that's part of a rule of life that allows us to sink deeper into the kingdom, right? And the kingdom, again, it's not about getting up there or avoiding down there. It's about seeing how God's kingdom is running alongside ours, and we have these brief flashes, moments of it, where we have these thin spots where God's presence just shines brighter sometimes, that we're more aware of it than others. And I think our daily pondering of scripture helps us to identify that.
So I have my fun Bible today. Carrie's gone for the more demure approach.
It's big print.
It's big. It's big print. Mine has stickers and colors. Nah. Whatever Bible you choose one that works for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And on that
Print or
note,
otherwise.
we want to say have a wonderful and blessed weekend. Labor Day is coming up, which means it's a long weekend. Enjoy, right? And just move forward in expectation with hope in your hearts and the love of Christ shining from you. And we will see you next week. And until then, take care, God bless, and bye-bye.
Bye.